Hey, what's up, everyone? I am back to cover this 7:15 main slate. For Saturday, it's a 6-game slate. Let's jump right into it. At pitcher, we have three guys above 10,000. We have Scherzer leading the way at 12,000. He's coming off a 47 DraftKings point outing against the Reds. I recommended him in that game, and I'm going to recommend him here again against the Padres. It's an extremely heavy strikeout matchup here against the Padres, especially against right-handed pitching. Padres strike out a ton. Reyes strikes out a bunch. Machado. Hosmer doesn't strike out that much, but Will Myers does. Ty France. There's just a ton of strikeouts in the lineup. The catcher, Hedges, strikes out a ton. So here in San Diego, it's a great park to pitch in. Scherzer finally looked like himself last start against the Reds, and really good chance he can continue that into here. He also goes very deep into games, throwing well over 100 pitches. Last game, he threw 120 pitches, and he did not want to come out of the game. They wanted to take him out of the game with like 1 out or 2 outs in the seventh inning. But he pleaded his case and finished that out and put up 100 and threw 120 pitches and finished with 15 strikeouts. You can really have another huge strikeout game in this one, so I love Max Scherzer starting off. Second pitcher I'm going to go with is going to be Steven Matz at 6,800. So just need like a cheap pitcher to pair with Scherzer. It's kind of tough on this slate. We don't have very many good options. Like I guess you could go with Bassett if you want, but in Texas, it's not something I love for cash games. John Lester might be a little popular because the wind is blowing in Chicago, but against all these righties for the Cardinals, it's a little scary. I'll just go with Matz. The Rockies have under a 4-run total here. We know the Rockies are not very good outside of Coors, and Matz, he does still have some strikeout stuff. He can still strike out right-handed hitters, and he throws about 90 to 100 pitches. It's a decent park. It's a really good park to pitch in, and at home he's been pretty good this season. He's put up 18 at home, 21, 25, and 24. He's really gotten in trouble on the road, so I think Matz is a fine play here at 6,800. The price tag on him is very fair. Next up at first base, I forgot to mention, if you could drop a like and subscribe, I would appreciate that. So at first base, I'm going to go with Matt Olson here against Adrian Sampson. So Olson's at a decent price tag, 4,400. It's a short slate, but he has a ton of upside, ton of power upside, and the park is great. He goes from, the A's go from hitting in one of the worst ballparks in the league in Oakland to getting to hit in one of the best ballparks in the league, and also when the weather is extremely hot in Texas, as it always is in the summer. And Olson, you can definitely look at the splits with him, like especially home and away. At home this season, he's only batting 175, but on the road, he's batting 311. And against righties, this season, he only has a 222 average, but we know he has a ton of power, and it's a limited sample size with him. Even more limited than the other players because he was injured for a lot of it. But he has a career 280 ISO against right-handed pitching. So I really do like Matt Olson here, given his splits on the road and given the weather here, and given Sampson, who looked good in his last start, but I'm not buying it. He still struggles with the strikeouts, even though he racked up 11 against the Royals. I don't think that's sustainable. He also gives up a lot of hits and gives up some home runs and power too. So I feel pretty good about going with the A's here in this doubleheader, in the second half of the doubleheader too. All right, next up at second base, I kind of like Brian Dozier here. He's extremely cheap at 3,700. He's been hitting the ball really well as of late, a bunch of multi-hit games for him. He's extremely cheap. He gets to face a lefty, and he has really hit lefties well this season. And for his career, he's always been a great hitter against lefties. So Dozier's been hot this season. He's batting 364 against left-handed pitching with 3 bombs and just 44 at-bats, which gives him a 318 ISO and a 682 slugging percentage. And for his career, he's batting 273 against lefties, much, much higher than his career numbers against righties. Also has a career 232 ISO against left-handed pitching. So with the way Dozier's been swinging the bat, and with Lauer, who does give up some power to right-handed bats, I feel like Dozier at a good price tag can do some damage here. So I like Dozier a lot. At third base, I kind of like Max Muncy, 4,400 for Muncy. The The Dodgers have a nice total today. It's over 5 against Samardzija. Samardzija's always struggled. His struggles have come against left-handed hitters, and this Dodgers team has a ton of lefty power with Muncy, Bellinger, Peterson leading the way, and Seager's looking like himself the last couple weeks. So Samardzija this season, he's been decent to lefties. 2018, he was really bad to lefties, 521 slugging given up and a 301 batting average. And 2017 as well, gave up a 478 slugging. So he's always kind of struggled against lefty power. And Muncy's at a really good price tag at 4,400. He's been like high 4,000s, low 5,000s lately. So I feel like Muncy here can do some damage at a pretty good price tag. And last but not least, I like Chris Davis. He's only $4,200 facing Sampson. It's kind of disrespectful, I think, on DraftKings' part that they have other outfielders priced above Chris Davis. Canna is $200 more than Davis. Laureano's $100 more. Grossman's $100 more. Piscotty's $100 more. Like, Davis should be the highest priced A's outfielder by far. He's been struggling as of late. He's been striking out a ton. But it's a really, really, really good matchup against Sampson. I'll show you the numbers. Sampson has been struggling against righties this season. Chris Davis has been reverse splits for most of his career. Tons of power against righties. And he really should get hit hard here, especially by Davis. Davis has always owned the Rangers in this ballpark too. This season, Sampson's given up a 318 batting average and a 553 slugging to righties. He's also given up a 1.93 home run per 9 to righties. And he's given up a 40% fly ball rate. So if anybody on the A's is gonna take Sampson deep, I have a good bet it's gonna be Chris Davis. So this is what I kind of like for the main slate. Gonna target some of the A's, a couple of the cheap. I like a couple cheap Nationals, some Dodgers bats. If I wanted to talk about some Cardinals, I think they'll be interesting. Even though the wind's blowing in against Leicester, I like a $4,000 Paul Goldschmidt. I also like if Jed Jerko is going to be in the lineup with Carpenter day-to-day. I like him. He's been really good against lefties for his career. And maybe you could go with like Bader or Fowler as a cheap option. On the Cubs, I don't have interest in that many players except for a very cheap Kyle Schwarber, still only $3,700. If Cargo is going to be in the lineup at $2,700, and Baez. Don't really have any interest in the Rockies except for Arenado and Story, the two really good lefty hitters. Even though it's not a good ballpark to hit in, those two guys still have great numbers against left-handed pitching, especially Arenado, so I wouldn't mind taking him as a one-off. And then on the Mets against John Gray, nothing really stands out. John Gray, I respect him. He's pitching outside of Coors. He has a lot of strikeout upside. I would rather take a chance on Gray than play any Mets. The Dodgers, I mentioned I like the lefties mainly, like Muncy. I like Muncy a bunch, Seager, Peterson, Verdugo if he's going to be in the lineup at $3,600, and Bellinger. And the Rangers, didn't mention really anybody against Bassett, but Odor is really cheap at $3,500. As is I like DeShields if he's going to be in there at $4,100 with Gallo on the IL and Shin-Soo Choo day-to-day. So, and maybe Asdrubal Cabrera is pretty cheap. And then here in this game, we have the Angels and the Mariners. On the Angels side, I have a lot of interest in the righties, especially against Kikuchi, who's really struggled lately, and he got absolutely rocked by the Angels last start, and it could happen again easily. The Angels don't strike out. Kikuchi has not much of a strikeout guy either. He gives up lots of power, lots of hard hits. I like Pujols at $4,300. I like David Fletcher leading off against a lefty at $4,200. And I like Trout and Cesar Puello at $4,100. On the Seattle side, they're facing a lefty in Peters. Not sure how many innings he's going to pitch. But we could go with Encarnacion Beckham at $3,700. And Santana and even Smith against a lefty-lefty matchup, I don't mind because I don't think Peters is going to throw like 100 pitches. And last but not least, the Nationals. I mentioned Dozier. And that's kind of it. I don't have a ton of interest in anybody else because they're all kind of priced up except for Dozier. And on the Padres, no interest against Max Scherzer. So those are the picks I like for the main slate. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. You can drop a like if you did. And you can check out the website, dfsprocess.net. Thanks for watching and good luck today.